great-grandfather. He came over in 1830 to avoid the draft. I think it was about the time of Bismarck or somebody, and he was trying to get out of the. I guess we'd call him a coward or a slacker or something or other. I'm an 8th German and a 5th Scotch. That is a 4th Scot. Scotch is what a Scot drinks.
Just the part that is Scot. So you have to take, instead of a shot, you have to take 1/5 a shot, huh?
Right.
Now, then you were born where?
Indiana.
Indiana. How much education did you get?
Practically none, although I've had 6 years of college.
That's a very good way to put it.
No, as a matter of fact, I used to say I got my education at New Mexico Cow College and my advanced degree from Stanford. That was back in the days when Stanford was an educational institution instead of a commune for Keynesians.
Yeah, I'm with you.
There was some professor out there with a French name.
I know who it is, Tarsus. Wasn't it Tarsus?
I don't know. Well,
I read a book by a Stanford professor on the Keynesian theory, a textbook.
Anyway, he is, I believe, credited with inventing the expression, gold is a prehistoric relic from the barbaric past.
Yeah.
And
he said, why not have rock candy or something like that for backing up for your money?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I read the Tarsus book and got it out of our university because it was teaching people that even to save was wrong, Keynesians don't want you to sit on your money because it's got to be circulated, you see. And then the government's got to spend and deficit spend and continue to deficit spend. Well, we've had Keynesian.
Well, of course, as long as you're sitting on your money and it's in a bank or stock someplace, it's circulating.
Oh, sure it is.
And,
it's producing somewhere along the line.
I've been watching the stock market, and back in 1963, I paid $5 for a trial subscription to Baxter the Bear, and let the thing drop because he'd write 7 pages of BS. And is it all right to say BS on your tape machine here?
Oh, sure.
You're going to sort of trim it down.
This is all between us until we get the finished product. If you're going to be able to look at it.
All right, let's just keep this thing in perspective now.
Yeah.
I guess you read German.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, Baxter the Bear, I dropped the subscription, but he did. It was a valuable thing to me because it induced me to buy my first 100 shares of American South African investment trust at about 19 or so, and I fuddled around there for a year and it dropped down to 17, and I thought, well, I hadn't been watching it, so I thought, well, what the hell, I'll buy some more. Well, of course, there was a split somewhere along the line, so it meant that I'd paid about 9 for the stuff. And then there was another 2-for-1 split, so it meant that I'd paid about 4.5 for the stuff, and it closed yesterday at 49. A 10 times increase in 10 years isn't, it isn't as good as some of the high-flying stocks, but the high flyers go up and then they go back down.
Well, isn't it a gold stock? I mean,
it's a holding company that owns gold mines.
Yeah, well,
largely.
Looks to me like for the last several years it's been the best thing you could have in stock.
I sold off all of the American South African I had gradually, bit by bit, and bought the stuff they owned. Their components. It's being a holding company, or what do they call it, an investment trust? All the same like an open-end fund.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I bought West Driefontein, and where the hell's that last letter from the SOB I got here?
Want to move that?
Oh, hell no. Here's what I'm looking for. This guy up in Calgary, Alberta, writes a market letter and tells us to buy the West Riefenton and so forth. A subscriber complains, quote, by believing in the inevitability of the deflation which has been predicted and hunkering up over the last few years, I've lost a good many opportunities. Since this current surge in the stock market, no date on that thing, this thing's no, Myers' letter's dated November 6th, but there's no date on this man's
analysis.
Crying.
Yeah.
Since this current surge in the stock market, which would have ended long about a month and a half ago, I'm more than ever feeling like the little man with the sandwich board crying, repent, the end is coming, only the end never arrives and my sign is beginning to fade, unquote. My response to this letter is as follows. I am printing it because perhaps we all need to be reminded. I write to him every once in a while and say, thanks for keeping me pumped up. Last November 30, just to pick a date out of midair, well, it wasn't midair, the following prices prevailed. Gold, $63, West Riefenton, $23, and so forth and so forth.
Go ahead, I'm listening.
Now, gold is at about 100. West Dry was at about almost 30, or about almost 40, about 38. Gold has risen to 125 and is still up close to 100. So I feel that the poor guy that had missed his opportunities for a few of the high flyers. For instance, I got a high flyer in my little stock book here. LTV Incorporated. It's jumped from 8 to 16 or something rather. I wouldn't have that damn stuff up my nose if I had room for a sawmill because it's going to go back down again. I don't think the golds are going to go back down. Did that flash?
No.
You're not shooting flash?
Yeah, I am now. I didn't have the thing turned off.
Oh?
Disordered mind. Disorderly mind. Now I'm all right. I want to get you with that slide rule up there. Let me see how much of it I can get with it. Well, now why don't we shoot it just like that? That's a hell of a big slide rule.
Can you see the little one?
Well, I can see it, and it'll be pretty sharp with this camera.
What kind of film you shooting?
125, black and white. Now, this is what I want, just about where you are, right there. Let me take a crack at that. I'm shooting at 22 now, estimating about 8 feet. Now you can turn to me and make a remark, you see. Did that flash?
I don't think it's,
Well,
I didn't see it.
Bell,
Do you need
know.
to charge batteries or something?
No.
Let me see, mine's in Shreveport, so I can't help you.
No, I've got it all right. I'll get it finally organized here.
I have to stuff the thing in the hole?
Yeah, you have to put that little contact in there, or you don't get anything. Now then. Now, are you looking at me?
Yeah.
That did it.
Yeah, where is everybody?
Well, we'll try another one later on. But at least we got the thing put together, didn't we?
Mm-hmm.
Now, let's go back to Stanford in New Mexico. What was it? Electrical engineering or what?
Both schools, yeah.
Electrical
In
engineering.
New Mexico Cow College in 1926, and then a year and a half at General Electric Company, and 3 years in South America maintaining electric locomotives for a mining company. And then at the loot of the Depression, that's the opposite of the height,
Yeah.
I went out to Stanford to do my loafing as profitably as possible, and spent 2 years out there and got a funny degree that's about halfway between the masters and doctors.
Mm-hmm.
You turn off your machine, no, it's still grinding away.
Yeah,
there.
let her run.
That's
a Sony. Yeah, that's a good little machine. Just
it was at Stanford. Well, of course, I was interested in radio. We can go back a long ways because
I want you
radio
to.
and the related arts, for example, I can say that dates back to before I was 8 years old. My first great love was railroads, and then I saw Lincoln Beachey flying in and out of Purdue Stadium in 1911, and I didn't forsake my first love. I just became polygamous. And then somewhere along the line, I saw and heard a wireless station back in the days when they had the crashing spark and a rotary spark gap and all that sort of thing, and it was noisy and impressive. So I became almost a radio ham at one time. I built my own radio receiving apparatus, and I even had an illegal transmitter about 1920. At college, I was trying to get away from radio and into what I would call big stuff like power and railroads and stuff like that. But I kept coming back to radio and the related arts. The only option we had in engineering all the way through New Mexico. By the way, New Mexico Cow College is my affectionate name for New Mexico State University, which used to be New Mexico College for Agriculture and Mechanic Arts. Come on in, Bob. This is Mr.
Greene.
Bob
Len
Moers.
Greene, yes.
Good to meet you, sir.
Bob, good to see you. Appreciate you coming out.
I have a visitor here. Let me get him wandering around the plant,
Where'd
which he
you
can
go?
do without getting in trouble. I'll be back just 30 seconds.
Now, first of all, let me get the date. You gave me a 1926 on New Mexico State University, and Stanford was in the
1934.
34.
Well, anyway,
Go right ahead.
the only option we had in engineering at Cal College was radio, 1 hour course, I think it was. So we took radio. General Electric Company, first doggone test I got assigned to was radio receivers. Well, I wanted to get into big stuff, so we went to machinery and then out to Erie for transformers and locomotives. And then I got into big stuff. I did 3 years, a little over 3 years in South America with electric locomotives, but the hobby was still with me, and I built myself a shortwave super heterodyne that I could pick up WGY on its Schenectady and pick up the stock market. Came back to the United States, and I went out to Stanford with the idea of taking high voltage, and I couldn't get in the high voltage course because I was entering in January instead of fall. So I took the next best thing and took some communication courses under Terman, and then the next fall, when I could get in the high voltage course, I did take a semester or a year or something or other of the high voltage course, but it was lucky I found out beforehand that Terman was the heavyweight in the department, and that Carroll, who taught high voltage, well, I wouldn't say that he was a heavyweight. So here I am back in the radio and communications arts, and it was as a result of that, of course, that I got into speakers. One of my colleagues there at Stanford, one of the students, remarked that any speaker would be better if you put it in a corner. And that would have been about 1933.
You hadn't made one up to that time?
I hadn't made a corner speaker
You
up to
just
that
made
time.
a super heterodyne receiver.
I'd fooled around with speakers, and my first speaker consisted of some cardboard tubing attached to a half of a pair of earphones. And that would have been 1920, and it didn't work very well. Nothing inspiring about that, believe me. But the remark about any speaker being better for being in a corner was something that got me started. And then a fellow by the name of Madison R. Jones did his thesis on loudspeakers. And I spent darn near as much time leaning over his shoulder, looking over what he was doing, as I did on my own thesis. And
What was yours on?
electronics. We didn't call it that in those days.
Still at Stanford.
Yeah.
Go right ahead.
Anyway, in 1938, a guy by the name of J.O. Perrine of the Bell Telephone Laboratories was bringing a sales pitch on the telephone art and so forth before the Houston Engineers Club. And he had some loudspeakers up on stage, and he showed how a tweeter could reproduce the sound of a couple of pieces of sandpaper rubbing together, but you play them through the woofer and you couldn't even hear it. He went, He had a little telephone booth up there on the stage, and he closed the door and rubbed sandpaper together. You could see him through the glass, and nothing happened. And then he switched the tweeter and scratch, scratch, scratch. The Houston Engineers Club, in announcing the meeting, said your wife will be interested too. Bring her along. So when it was all over, my wife said, "We're not using the back bedroom. Why don't you use that for a lab?" All right, that's starting in 1938, 39. And by early 1940, I had a working model of a corner speaker. The termites got in the dang thing, and I had to destroy it before I got some really good tests on the darn thing.
Now, was this out at Palo Alto, or where
That
were
was
you
in
living?
Houston, Texas.
Houston, Texas. You were back out of Stanford.
I was out of
Yeah.
Stanford and down doing geophysics with first a seismograph and then a geochemical company.
So
After
you
the
had a
war
lab.
came along and Uncle brought me here to this proving ground, my office is now about 20 feet from where it was during World War II.
I didn't get that. Now, who came along?
Uncle.
World War II.
Oh, Uncle, and brought you
Uncle
out here
Sam.
to
See, I had a reserve commission,
mhm.
and that way Uncle could punch my ticket and say, "You go where I tell you." If I'd been a civilian, he said, "Would you accept this job?" Well, anyway, yes.
Well, what had you done in your bedroom lab, if anything?
I don't know, I built some rather
Experimental.
cavalier type of measuring equipment, and I used that to test my first loudspeaker, which wasn't very good. And as I said, the termites got in it, and I never got to really run some exhaustive tests on it like I'd like to have. I had to burn the darn thing. But I still have X3, which I built in 42, and it's still across the street. X for experimental, 3 for number 3 of the experiments.
I heard one of your very first manufactured products, Elston Leonard in Little Rock, had one, and he called me when he got it. He was in the photographic business, had a studio in the lab, and we were just so carried away with it. He still got it. He's in Memphis now, and he has this photo box establishment over there. He makes movies for us, 16 millimeter movies. But I heard, of course I didn't know anything and still don't know one thing about sound reproduction, but I like good quality sound, high fidelity. Now excuse me for interrupting, go ahead. I wanted you to know that I heard one of your first deals, and it was a corner horn, and there hadn't been an awful lot of improvement, has there?
In detail only. The principle remains the same. Well, after the war,
You
Well,
came
during
to
the
this
war-
Hope, Arkansas.
this particular location is the old Army Ordnance Ammunition Proving Ground. We tested various kinds of ammunition ranging from 20 millimeters as the smallest up to 155 millimeter, 6-inch long tom. And we also tested aerial bombs and rockets. Well, anyway, I went to visit my patent attorney in Houston back in about the middle of World War II, and while I was there I called up my former boss and said, "Don't hold the job open, I'm going to build loudspeakers after the war." And when I got my separation papers up at Camp Chaffee, Fort Chaffee, whatever they call the place,
Mhm.
I was a major then, and a young second lieutenant was doing the interviewing for well, what kind of a job do I want after the war and so forth, and I said, "I don't want a job, I'm going to manufacture loudspeakers." And I remember that at the bottom of the questionnaire, the lieutenant's comment, individual has no previous experience.
Seems poorly suited for his intended job or something like that.
Least likely to succeed.
Well, he was probably darn near right, because this old crap about, I've already given him some bullshit buttons, Bob.
Well, good.
Yeah.
This old crap about build a better mousetrap and they'll beat a path and all that sort of, yeah. Now,
Yeah,
here's the
yeah,
guy,
yeah,
that's where he
yeah,
comes into the picture.
Yeah. He told me, Bob, that
He joined the
He
firm in
began to be able to shake a
1960.
dime and a quarter together in his pocket.
He'd make a spark, yeah. You gotta have the spark.
Now,
Does he look like a salesman to you?
well, yes, he does. He looks like an intelligent guy to me. And if selling is his
Would you buy a
ticket-
used car from that man?
I don't know about that. I doubt if I'd buy a used car from anybody.
Everybody drives a used car.
Well, anyway, I wasn't drawing a salary. This company had been in existence since 1946. From 1946 to
What company
48,
now
it
are
was
you
a
talking
one-man
about?
organization strictly.
Klipsch and Associates
Klipsch and Associates.
started in '46.
And
Well, you started here.
here, well, not right here. I had
Yeah,
a little
yeah.
little shanty down behind what used to
But
be a
you
laundry.
started right after you got out of Fort
Yeah.
Chaffee, Camp Chaffee.
Well, I got discharged, or not discharged, but separated from active duty up there. But the thing is, I was attached here at this proving ground all through the war.
This was a small part of the Chaffee complex?
No, this is Army ordnance.
This was
That was
just-
artillery or something.
Yeah.
Answered like the folks at Aberdeen and things
Yeah,
like that.
yeah.
Aberdeen
Yeah.
Proving Ground was the master
Yeah.
proving ground for Army ordnance.
Yeah, they were taking advantage of your electrical
Mhm.
engineering skill.
Mhm.
Now, go ahead from there on.
Well-
When did you get started on a loudspeaker?
Well, we made
mock-up?
some Baldwin Piano Company, or the Baldwin Company, which I used to refer to as Baldwin Piano Company, made the first dozen production units of our bass horn, and I made some high-frequency horns down in the little tin shed behind the laundry. That was in 47. In 48, we moved into the little pipe building across the street and started building them under our own roof, under our own quality control, such as it was. And it was in, I guess, March of 48 when I hired my first employee, who's still with me.
How many do
but-
you have in all now?
About 30.
They're all craftsmen, aren't they?
No,
They're not?
no, I'm not a craftsman.
Well, you're in the sales end.
Dick's not a craftsman.
Managing end.
This thing is so specialized, Mr. Green, that we can hire somebody who has no specific skills and teach him one small area
Mhm.
of the manufacturing process of a loudspeaker and make a darn good employee out of him, and he could not build a set of kitchen cabinets. He might not even be able to drive a nail. But he's good for what we're trying to get out of him.
Let me see if we're getting you on this. Now, I just want to be sure we're getting you. This thing's doing all right.
Well, we struggled along there with a hand-to-mouth existence. I never missed a payroll for my men, but I didn't draw a salary myself, and I remember on one occasion after we paid the men, I had $2 and a few cents in the bank.
How'd you sell your wares?
Well, that was almost none.
You're like some other creators. The fun is creating, but you don't have any idea how to get to the market with it. Maybe to some extent.
A
I'm
sales
that way.
representative firm wrote me back in 1947 or 8, somewhere along in there, and offered their service as a sales rep, and I didn't know how to use a sales rep, and I was going to go direct to dealers, and I turned them down, and they took a hold of an amplifier manufacturer and made him I guess the world's #1 quality amplifier builder.
Who did this? The sales rep or
The sales rep,
got a hold of one?
I can't think of the name of that company now, but it was a California company.
It's now what is called the Kessler firm, but it didn't start out as the Kessler firm. It started
Well,
out
it was
with a different
Kessler
name.
branched off from the other one, and it was a split where the parent rep firm took the electronics and manufacturers and the specialized line, and Kessler took the hi-fi lines. Anyway, Macintosh, you heard of the Macintosh amplifier. Well, they built Macintosh into a
Top seller in the West
top
Coast.
seller. And
People that you let have your...
no,
people
they.
who wouldn't
I
get
didn't
one.
know how to
You
use a
wouldn't,
rep. I turned them down.
I see.
And I didn't draw a salary. I'd do some expense money, but actually I'd put in, I guess nearly $30,000 or $40,000 of an inheritance from my mother into the company before it started making enough money for me to start getting it back. And it was about 1.5 years after Bob came with us that we decided that I ought to draw a salary. And I think my salary was something like $300 a month, wasn't it? 4?
Was it?
4.
4? I hope you're making a little bit more than that.
Well, I think the employees share a bonus, share of profits bonus would run higher than that right now.
Who do you represent, Mr. Greene?
Nobody.
He's a freelance.
Who is this proposed article for?
Well, I've been a newspaper man for 40 years, Bob, and I worked on the Gazette and the Democrat and the UPI, and I'm still in journalism. I'm the producer of radio films on the American Way of Life up at Searcy with Dr. Benson at Harding College. Now, what I'm going to do is to go down to the Democrat, and I don't want to go down there empty-handed. I want to go down with a story and suggest an idea to them, and that is do a series on Arkansas manufacturers who are producing the premium quality article in the world in their field. Well, I couldn't think of anyone but Klipsch to start with, and so I'm going to develop this story. That would be the first outing of the first offering of the story. I know the ownership and the editorship of the Democrat, and then I would develop out of a longer version a magazine story that I would submit to either a national magazine, if we can think of the best possible national magazine for a story of this type.
How about Collier's or Saturday Evening Post?
Well, Saturday Evening's back. Saturday Evening Post is back in business now.
Yeah,
That might be
quarterly or something like that.
Yeah. Isn't it a bi-monthly?
Whatever. It's not what it used to be, by any
no.
means. Liberty tried to make a comeback. And
Well, maybe one of the, I was going to say women's magazines. I don't know. We'll just have to examine the market. I thought you might have some some suggestions along that line. Let's go on with this history a little further. Then I want to ask you about a lot of things. Radio City, Brussels World's Fair, and some of the glamour installations. I believe Robinson Auditorium is
Yes, they are.
They're on the way. Are they doing it now?
Yeah, they're doing it.
By the way, are we going to Little Rock Monday night?
Is there music?
No. On Monday the 19th, a week from next Monday.
I would answer in the affirmative.
That's Mahler's Fourth
That's a good piece of music.
and some Slav soprano.
All right.